محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. أحينا اللهم على سنته وأمتنا على ملته واحشرنا في زمرته واسقنا من يديه الشريفتين شربة هنيئة لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا يا رب العالمين. اللهم آمين آمين آمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Last week we discussed how the activity, the criticizing the narrators and checking the authenticity of the hadith, how it started during the different periods of the before 40 of Al-Hijrah, and then from 40 to 50, and then till 90. And today, inshallah, we're going to talk briefly, since we don't have much time, we're going to talk briefly about the hadith in certain cities in the Arabian Peninsula, and in particular outside Al-Medina. And this is why we need to talk about this, because the companions of the Prophet ﷺ left Medina and they went outside Medina for different purposes. Some of them, most of them, for doing jihad, and some of them just to teach others. But we need to talk about two elements here. The first one is to what extent the companion was active in a certain cities or in just one particular city. And we can take the example of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, who was very active in Al-Kufa. Al-Kufa is now in Iraq, in Iraq. And it was one of the first cities, was established after the Muslims, the Muslim empire, the Islamic empire, getting bigger and bigger. So Al-Kufa was one of the first cities built after Mecca and Medina, of course. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, when he settled in Mecca, the muhaddithun, they used a particular expression. They said, "Mala'aha ilman." He filled the city with knowledge. Mala'aha ilman. If we take different example, we're going to back to this, but if we take different example, is Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, who is one of the four Abadilas, who's a great companion, one of the great companions who narrate a lot from the Prophet ﷺ. But he didn't play that role similar to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, because he used to travel all over the Arabian Peninsula, between Mecca and Medina, Ta'if, Basra, Egypt, Misr, Kufa, and so on. So he didn't settle in particular place and start teaching. And if you're doing this, then you don't have students. And if you don't have students, you don't have legacy. Full stop. This is what Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, because Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who inherited Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abu Hanifa and his school. This is why the Hanafi school, most of their opinions and their fiqh back to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and we will see these later on. And then the second element, the tabi'un, the successors, the students of the companions radiyallahu anhum, who took from the companions. There is a huge difference between those who lived, those successors, tabi'in, who lived in Damascus and in Al-Kufa. Those who used to live in Kufa, they were very, very active, and those were the teachers of Abu Hanifa. And on the other hand, those in Damascus, the students in particular of Abu Darda radiyallahu anhu, they were not at the same level of being busy with taking knowledge and spreading knowledge. So they didn't pay much attention to Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, who narrated a lot, by the way. But because, again, lack of students, his opinions, his knowledge, it just disappeared. And we will see these later on, for example, when the scholar, they compared between two great scholars. They compared between Imam Malik, you know him, of course, and someone who was like Malik exactly, Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, a great Imam, great scholar from Egypt. Very knowledgeable, same as Malik. And what Shafi'i, the student of Malik and Al-Layth, said, كان الليث أفقه من مالك. He was more knowledgeable in fiqh than Malik. ولكن تلاميذه ضيعوه. He didn't have students. Then his knowledge is just lost. And so they exchanged letters between them in different arguing, in different issues of knowledge. One of them we will see, inshallah, is the practice of the people of Medina, whether is hujjah, is a proof in Sharia or not. It was a long debate between them, and it shows that Layth ibn Sa'd was such a great intellect, someone who's we've never ever seen someone like Layth ibn Sa'd, but all his knowledge is gone, except what we got from the student of Malik who narrated from him while he was debating Malik. So that's the same thing what happened. So those who were in Kufa, they were very active, busy with knowledge. It's like now, you have halaqa, you start with 20 people, 20 students, and in 2 months you end up with 1 student. So the commitment, that's same. Commitment to knowledge, commitment to ilm. And at that time, we don't say, no, those tabi'un were not committed. No, they were busy with jihad. They were busy with other things, especially take the context that the empire was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and those people were always in jihad. The one who Sahabi, the companion who died in Istanbul, near Istanbul, what was his name? Radiallahu anhu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I will remember. The one, when the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, he settled in his house. So, and he went to, he was in continuity of jihad. I will remember him later on. One of the great companions of Allah. So you can see, or some of you may ask Sheikh Google to remind us. Yeah, that's okay. So if you look at the corpus of hadith, at the books of hadith, you will find statistically 2/3 of the chains of narration, 2/3 goes back to 3 cities: Medina, Kufa, and Al-Basra. Mecca is not there. Medina, Al-Kufa, and Al-Basra. 2/3 of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, by the way. I'm just remembering. Sayyidina Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Yeah. If you have the opportunity to visit Istanbul, his mosque there is very well known. They called Hazrat Ayyub. Yeah. And it was custom of the caliphs of the Ottoman Empire that any new caliph will take the bay'ah, the allegiance there in the mosque of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, where he actually died, rahimahullah wa radiyallahu anhu. So back here. So 2/3 of the chains goes back to these 3 cities. So you see how much were active these cities, and the scholar and the companions and the successors. And not only this, if some of you are aware of these qira'at, qira'at al-ashr, I've recited with qira'ah of Warsh. Well, the other imams, they recite Hafs and Asim. So Asim is one of the qurra, the 10 qurra, and I recite Warsh from Nafi'. Nafi' is one of the 10 qurra. Actually, 4 of the great Imam of these Qurra are from Kufa. 4 of them. 2 from Basra, 2 from Medina, 1 from Mecca, 1 from Sham. See how, and you can imagine, you have 4 of them from Kufa. And it was new city, but it was very busy, very active, a center of learning. The grammar, the Arabic grammar started in Kufa and Basra. Well, the Arabs, they didn't know about, I said this many times, the past tense, the present tense, the subject, the adjective, the adverb. They didn't know about this. Even the companions, if you ask companion what is past tense or what is future, they didn't know because they knew Arabic perfectly. Of course, but this, it was a later stage when the empire started getting bigger and bigger, so there was need to teach grammar to new people, new Muslims who came to Mecca, Medina, and the empire, to teach them the Arabic language. To teach them the Arabic language, we need to introduce these rules and qawaid and nahu and so on. Where they started, Kufa and Basra. And even till now, we're talking about 2 schools of grammar in Arabic. They have their opinion. The Kufans, they have their opinion, and the Basrans, they have their opinions in grammar. So you see how these 2 cities are important. And let's now briefly talk about these cities, Medina, Mecca. The first one, of course, Medina. And Medina was very active because, well, the Prophet ﷺ died there, and Umar was very strict that he didn't let any companion to leave Medina. No, unless if he, radiallahu anh, used to send governors or judges or teachers, he would give them a command, you go there. Otherwise, you stay in Medina, you don't leave Medina. Because in the opinion of Umar, I need you, all of you, the companions. I need to consult you. I need to, if I have an issue, we have to go back to you. Then if you spread all over the Arabian Peninsula, well, I cannot consult this. So it was kind of a council, shura, majlis of the companions. So Umar radiallahu anhu was very strict. If you have any question, by the way, just ask. We don't, it's not a lecture and we need to wait. So if you have any, you can interrupt anytime. Yeah. So Medina, it was the first city, of course, center to get this narration. We know that from these companions who narrated a lot, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, who said, he narrated radiallahu anhu 5,300 hadith and something 78, 74, who used to settle in Medina. So he's from Medina. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the second one, 2,600 hadith and 30. He was there in Medina. Aisha radiallahu anha, she was settling there, and she number 3, 2,200 something. Jabir ibn Abdullah, he was one of the youngest companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, he used to live there in Medina, 1,540 hadith. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, same thing, one of the great companions who narrated. They named them al-mukthiruna min as-sahaba. Al-mukthirun comes from, they narrated much, more than any other companions. Jazakallah khair. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, 1,170 hadith. So this is why Medina, it was the first one. The first one, of course, is Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. A lot of things has been said about Abu Hurairah, especially from the, before that it's from Shia actually. Shia attacked Abu Hurairah. And they wrote a lot of books criticizing Shia. Yeah, the sect Shia. For several reasons. We don't want to get to this debate between Sunnis and Shias, so we don't want. But that's the first thing. And the second thing, I mean, recent studies, starting from the 1913, some Orientalists here, Orientalists, those Westerns who used to write about Islam, so we call them Orientalists. Some of them, they don't like this title. They like to be called Arabists. not Orientalists. We call them Arabists, Orientalists, Western academics, whatever, we don't care that. And some from the Arab and Muslim world, yeah, who may be secular mind or whatever. Again, we don't want to get to these, just to give an idea. So, criticizing Abu Hurairah, saying, how can someone who converted, who became Muslim at year 7 of Hijrah, and then he was number one in narrating from the Prophet ﷺ. So he lived with the Prophet ﷺ for how many years? 3 years. 3 years and something. And no, Abu Hurairah, because he converted year 7 and Prophet ﷺ died in year 10. And again, because those who criticize Abu Hurairah, they don't have so many concepts, clear concepts about this. Even for us, sometimes as students of hadith, students of طلاب العلم, knowledge, we don't have this clear image how to refute, how to respond without, if someone, I mean, you may have your sons, your daughters, your friends hearing this from others, saying these things, and we need to clarify these without any, how can you say this about nothing? We need to explain to them certain concepts here. So the first thing, as Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, as we said, he died later, so he lived for a long life. Because some people may say, how can Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrate more than Abu Bakr? Then this person is just ignorant, because he doesn't know that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he lived only 5 years after Abu Hurairah converted. Of course, logically, we would get less hadith from Abu Bakr, because Abu Bakr just lived 2 years after the Prophet ﷺ. Just 2 years. But Abu Hurairah lived a long 60 years after that. Of course, he would narrate this. Logically, he would narrate this. You don't compare someone who just lived in this life for 5 years to someone who lived 75 years. And I said, well, I don't remember this guy. And I said, he died at the age of 5. Of course, you don't remember it. But I remember someone who died at 75. So he lived a long life. So that's one thing we need to clarify to the others who say this, especially the first point they mentioned, how can he narrate more than the best companion of the Prophet, who is Abu Bakr, more knowledgeable than anyone. And we said, Abu Bakr narrated in the hadith, Sahih, we have only 11 hadiths. Why? During these 2 years we said this, he was very busy to fight to save the new Islamic State. He was busy with this for just 2 years, and he passed away, radiallahu anhu. So that's the first thing. And Abu Hurairah, he was in Medina, and Medina was center of knowledge. And people came to Medina, and during these 3 years, again, sometimes we have some false concept or false information about the society of Medina. We think that Umar ibn al-Khattab was living next to the Prophet ﷺ, his neighbor, he's there. No, Umar ibn al-Khattab wasn't there. Umar ibn al-Khattab he lives outside Medina. You compare, we don't want to make this comparison, but if someone lives in Woolwich, Umar lives in Westminster or in Heathrow or whatever, he would travel to Medina to hear the Prophet ﷺ. So he would come 2 days in, 3 days out. Abu Hurairah, his house was the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. He was sitting there 24 hours. Imagine if you sit with Sheikh for 4 years, and someone who's even lived with Sheikh for 25 years. We live together in Plumstead, but well, I see you here from Friday to Friday. But you see someone here who stay only here for 2 months, but he would live here. He would live here in the mosque. He would see you then 24 hours, more than I see you. So Abu Hurairah was there 24 hours, 7 days. seeing the Prophet ﷺ in every single moment. That's one thing. Second thing, most of the hadith of the Prophet, of the Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, was like this. He wouldn't say سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. In rare cases, one of the great Indian muhaddithun scholars from India, he counted them and he found only 42, and that's logic. He said سمعت, I heard, which is literally he heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. Who would say قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, قال, which he could hear it from Umar, he could hear it from Abu Bakr, he could hear it from Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, from Sa'id ibn Zayd, from, because it wasn't a condition that a companion must say, Abu Hurairah must say, I hear this from Umar, from the Prophet. He would say, Qala also, that's what I said, because all of them are, we've seen before, they have the adala, we trust them. We have that's the second thing. And even the Prophet ﷺ, he gave this statement to Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. In a hadith in al-Bukhari, أخرج البخاري, he said, Abu Hurairah narrated, he said, قلت يا رسول الله من أسعد الناس بشفاعتك يوم القيامة. Who's the most honored person, who's the most happy person with your shafa'ah at the day of judgment? And then the Prophet ﷺ, look what he said. He told him, لقد ظننت يا أبا هريرة ألا يسألني عن هذا الحديث أحد أول منك. I thought that you were the first one to ask this hadith. لما رأيت من حرصك على الحديث, because you are so committed to take hadith from me. And this is clear statement explicitly, Prophet ﷺ saying that because he was there. He was there 24 hours with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he would narrate more than Abu Bakr, more than Umar himself, more than Uthman, more than Ali, more than Ubay, more than Usama, more than Aisha, of course, Sahl ibn Sa'd Sa'idi, these great scholars. And the Shia would say, how can Abu Hurairah narrate more than Ali? Well, it doesn't make sense for them. But this is the explanation. Yeah, this is the explanation. And he narrated something. And Abu Hurairah also was one of the great companions who used to teach also hadith. We've seen this before. Some companions, they didn't like to teach hadith, just to be on the safe side. Exactly. I don't want to say something and then change fatha with kasra, change letter with letter. No, we don't do this. Abu Hurairah, no, he has the courage to say this. So they used to say that Abu Hurairah, every Friday, he used to sit next to the Hujra, next to the Rawda in Medina, in the Masjid Nabawi, and teach the companions and the successor, the visitors of the mosque. He used to teach them the hadith of Prophet ﷺ. So this is kind of halaqa, weekly halaqa from Abu Hurairah, which the rest of the companions, they don't do this. But he, radiallahu anhu, he used to say this. And he traveled also. Some of the companions, they didn't travel. They stayed in Medina. But Abu Hurairah traveled. He traveled to Mecca and he stayed there. And he narrated there. And he traveled to Damascus when the Muslim conquered Damascus. And he narrated the hadith there. Again, sitting in the masjid, teaching people. He traveled to Kufa. You see, these are centers of knowledge. So these people, they had the opportunity to hear. Those who could not travel to Medina to hear from other companions, they hear this from Abu Hurairah. And he traveled to Bahrain. He stayed 1 year in Bahrain. You see, he was very active in spreading the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This makes sense then. If we know this, then it makes sense. And again, even the companions, they used to trust his capacity of, he's got a great memory. نعم. Kufa. لا لا لا, that's later on. Later on. Yeah. At that time, there was no Shia at all until that we're talking about the 40 hadith, 40 of Hijrah, and Shia were well established as a sect around 90. Yeah, and they start teaching their. They started as a political party, but as a school of thought, school of fiqh, school of theology, no, until 90, more than these after Umar ibn al-Aziz died, which is 101 of Hijrah. Yeah, so at that time, no. Seven of Hijrah. He was, I think, doing his 30s, I think, around. Yeah, around. No, 7 of Hijrah, but I think his 30s or 20s, or I have to check. Yeah, but we're talking about not his age, we're talking about the year of conversion. Well, I didn't have these, but it's just, the hadith is long. So I've just quoting again here. The aim of these sessions again is to trace the history of hadith. We may mention some hadith, but we're not. So we may just take a part of hadith. Yeah, again, it's a huge. So that's the but it's a very long hadith. Yeah, you can find it in the Bukhari in Babu Shafa'. So Ta'if, not much. Ta'if, no. Even as center of knowledge, Ta'if wasn't actually very well known in these Kufa, Basra, and Medina. So even Mecca, as a sacred place, and it wasn't. Later on, that's later stage. We're not now in Tabi'in. Damascus later on, it became very well known. Mecca later on. We're talking about these. The successors, the beginning of the companions. We are in nearly now 70 of Hijrah. Now with Abu Huraira, we are just between the 20 of Hijrah and 60. That's the period we're talking about it. So Damascus, it became center later on. No, that's again. It's how these. It's not because of the place itself. No, because Kufa and Basra are new cities. Is where these companions actually went. It's not because Medina is. You don't take this in a negative way. That no, this is maybe downgrading the status of Mecca. No, it's because these companions and you imagine. Futuhat, is jihad. Was the direction is through the east, Iraq, not through Mecca. The first thing is to defeat the Persian Empire, going to Iraq. So imagine, do you have the geography here? Yeah. So you're heading from what is now in modern times Saudi Arabia. You go in from Iraq. Yeah. You're not going down Mecca and down to Yemen. No, you're going to Iraq, and here you're going to the west of the Muslims. So Iraq, and then going to Syria, Jordan, Palestine, and on all these. This is how the Futuhats, started, not down like this. So automatically, most of the companions would travel like this, not like this. Yeah, certainly in there. Building new cities, these new cities very, very active, teaching the new Muslims, and then some of them were very, like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, very, very active, and someone who's very knowledgeable. No one can doubt Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, but also his commitment to knowledge was more than any other companions. That's what his students were, hundreds and hundreds. Yeah. So back to Abu Huraira. So the companions, Aisha radiallahu anha, even she made statements to Abu Huraira that Abu Huraira, his hadith, he said, كان ألزمنا. So he used to be with the Prophet ﷺ in every single moment. That's Aisha radiallahu, that's his wife, who used to be with the Prophet ﷺ, of course, for every single time. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, this is the companion who was martyred in Istanbul. Yeah. The same thing, he made a long statement about Abu Huraira because they heard, the companions, they heard Abu Ayyub al-Ansari saying, حدثني Abu Huraira. And then they're amazed. You lived with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ was in his house, in fact. He actually hosted the Prophet when he migrated to the Prophet ﷺ. The first house he stayed was the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. And he said, and then you narrating from Abu Huraira and you don't narrate from the Prophet ﷺ? He said, and then his answer, he replied, قال لأن أحدث عن أبي هريرة أحب إلي من أن أحدث عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because for him he was trustworthy. Because Abu Huraira, his memory was better than Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. So to get straight from Abu Ayyub, even I hear this from the Prophet ﷺ, but I'm not sure whether I heard this or this word. So just to be a safe side, I take it from, so what he's saying, khayrun, so to narrate from Abu Huraira, better for me to narrate from the Prophet ﷺ. It's not, it's in terms of barakah, his blessing, no, in terms of getting the right wording from Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu. Ibn Abbas narrated from him, and you know the position of Ibn Abbas. And we can say a lot about Abu Huraira. How many, and you can see now, because if someone who, according to that sect of Shia, for example, where they criticizing Abu Huraira that he was just lying, fabricating hadith, then the tabi'un, we've seen these tabi'un how were very strict, and this is why my introduction last week was about tabi'un. Tabi'un did not accept even from the companions. They would question them. Where did you get this? How many tabi'un narrated from Abu Huraira? He said, in general, according to Bukhari, 800 students narrated from the companions. 800 students narrated from the companions. And among these 800, most of them were the students of Abu Huraira. We're going to mention his students and to see exactly how these students were clever and were knowledgeable. And some of them, I would mention now the names, and you see what kind of student, because if you have, I don't know, if you take, so for example, you say in maths, and they say Einstein, and say, that's great, man, that's someone who's number one. And you assume that, well, his teacher or whatever, that's his great scholar. That's the same thing with Abu Huraira. So al-Bukhari, he said, تلاميذ أبي هريرة أشهر وأشرف وأعلم من أي تلاميذ. The most honorable, the most knowledgeable, and the most famous students were the students of Abu Huraira, not any of the other companions. The best of these were actually the 7 fuqaha of Medina. These are the top, number one. Now you're hearing people saying al-allama, shaykh. There is no allama in our time, by the way. Allama, shaykh, or so on, so on. If you say al-allama to these fuqaha, they call them al-fuqaha al-sab'a, the 7 jurists. The chief of these jurists is Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, who is the husband of the daughter of Abu Hurairah, his son-in-law. So he was with him. He absorbed all the knowledge of Abu Hurairah. Not only Sa'id al-Musayyib, you can write them because these great scholars, I mean, for us, I remember when I was in, maybe in year 6 in primary school, and we had to memorize these names in poetry, these fuqaha al-sab'a. Our teachers used to test us who are the fuqaha al-sab'a. So Sa'id al-Musayyib, number 1. Abu Salama ibn Abdul Rahman, great scholar. Later on, Google these people and you can see Abu Salama ibn Abdul Rahman, Sulaiman ibn Yasar, Sulaiman ibn Yasar, great scholar also. These are, subhanAllah, you say the name and that's it. Abu Bakr ibn Abdul Rahman, Qabisat ibn Lu'ayb, and again, alhamdulillah, now we have Sheikh Google, you write the fuqaha sab'a and you get them. But just Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah, Urwa ibn Zubayr. Remember Urwa ibn Zubayr? His auntie is, we said, Aisha radiallahu anha. He is the son of Zubayr ibn al-Awwam. His mother was Asma bint Abi Bakr. He is one of the great fuqaha and he's student of Abu Hurairah. He absorbed the same thing from Aisha radiallahu anha. He took the same thing. Urwa ibn Zubayr, Sulaiman al-Qasim. Imagine if you are a teacher and you have these great 7 students. You don't care about 1 billion people. And he said, that's mashallah. If Abu Hurairah only had these 7, that's it. We don't care about the hundreds of others. Because you will see later on that most of fiqh now, Imam Malik, 80% of the Maliki school is from Sa'id al-Musayyib. If you omit Sa'id al-Musayyib, if you take the fiqh of Sa'id al-Musayyib as Maliki school, we don't have anything. Just 20%. That's it. So that Sa'id al-Musayyib, who is again the husband of the daughter of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. And all of these were Madanis, were from Medina. This is what they call fuqaha al-sab'a fil Medina. All these 7 jurists in Medina. And these people, this is why I tell you. That's what Imam Malik referring to these 7 and other 63 scholars. He said, I did not issue any fatwa until I got permission from these 70 scholars. 70, including these 7 scholars, 7 fuqaha. What about us? We issue fatwa just to get permission from Sheikh Google, from TikTok. Now, you get fatwa, no worries. You produce fatwa. You don't need to worry. Well, it's haram, it's halal. Reminding these, you may see, I'm saying this again and again, to see the danger, to learn, to have a taqwa in our hearts, that it is a great sin to give fatwa. Don't give fatwas. My advice, don't give fatwa. People sometimes they ask me, ask Sheikh, don't ask me, I don't know. I'm teacher of Arabic. It's wallahi, it's danger. Because you may say something you don't care, and sometimes, as a human being, we have this, weakness, and we have this temptation to show. We have, as a human being, yes, we do have. And you rush to fatwa, we rush, and you say, no, it's halal, don't do it, it's okay, you do it. And then prepare your answer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the day of judgment. You may just forget about this, we just leave the masjid and we forget what we already give this person, this individual. But it is recorded. And you have to answer this. On what basis? you know what the fuqaha said? Something we need to, because we mentioned Sa'id Musayyib. They said, even if you give a correct fatwa, but you don't know how to get to this fatwa, what are they? You know, when they would teach them maths and all these, and he said, show the method. You see that sometimes they give you one activity, one question, one exercise. I didn't take math for 20 years now. I cannot. That's an Algerian method. I don't know if it's British method or Algerian. So you can, that first activity, yes, you do these, no ways. You just get the answer only. But the second, no, you need to show the method. How did you get to this? It is the opinion of the majority of fuqaha, scholars, usulis, for the last 14 centuries, that it is haram for an individual to issue a fatwa and you don't know how to get to this, you don't know the method. Even if you get the fatwa correct, you have the chance to get correct. The opinion was correct, yeah? And this is what they say. If you get a fatwa from scholar and from ignorant, or this component ignorance, you may get the scholar get it wrong, and this jahil, he may get right. But the reward for the scholar, not for this person. Although actually the scholar got it wrong, because the scholar, he actually followed method. And that's the problem. So we have to bear in mind this, yeah? So Sa'id ibn Musayyib was the first one. Sa'id ibn Musayyib died in 94 of Hijrah. 94 of Hijrah. He was a great scholar. He was a sheikh of the great Imam Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the great caliph. Yeah. They used to call him Sayyidu Tabi'in fi zamanihi. Sayyidu Tabi'in. No one is above Sa'id ibn Musayyib. He narrated a lot from Abu Hurairah, his father-in-law. Is that? And Aisha, and Ibn Abbas, Salama. And of course, because of his father-in-law, he would know Abu Hurairah more than anyone. He would go any time to his house and ask him about. Ibn al-Madini, the great scholar, the friend of Imam Ahmad, he said, لا أعلم في التابعين. I don't know anyone in the category of the successor أحدا أوسع علما من ابن المسيب. There is no one more knowledgeable than Sa'id Musayyib. هو عندي, in my opinion, من أجل التابعين, the best of the best. That's Ibn. And one of our great scholars, Qudama ibn Musa, he said, كان ابن المسيب يفتي وأصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحياء. He used to issue fatwas, and the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم were alive, sitting there, and they, of course, they acknowledge his fatwa, his knowledge. If someone in the Arabs, if someone who is in this category, who is to love, who is to committed to ilm, they don't say talib ilm. They used to say huwa talabatu ilm. It's like alim wa allama, and again there is no allama. In my opinion, we don't have allama. Yeah? Even if you see in YouTube so many allamas. Yeah? One of our scholars, he says, show me alim, not allama. Show me alim from the east to the west, from the north to the south. Show me alim. You don't have alim. Show me talib ilm. We don't have. We are not talab. We are not طلاب علم. But this Sa'id Musayyib كان طلابة للعلم. This is in Arabic we say the صيغة مبالغة. So they have this form, exaggeration form. So it's in every single moment of his life he was seeking knowledge. كان مجاهدا, they said, although this word now is controversial. He was such a scholar that he has continuous clash with the political authority. At that time, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who was the caliph, and he was his friend actually. They used to study together. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the great caliph, the caliph who built the Qubbat Sakhra, the dome of the rock in Masjid al-Aqsa. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who built this. Ibn Marwan, the Umayyad caliph. So they studied together. But he was, Sa'id Musayyib, he was his best friend. But the moment that Abdul Malik took over and became a caliph, he disconnects all the relationship with him. He said, no, you are there. You know, to the extent, I'll tell you something. He came to Medina and he sent someone to bring Sa'id Musayyib and said, I don't go to this caliph, no. I don't have any business to do with this person. And Abdul Malik ibn Marwan came to Medina asking Sa'id al-Musayyib to marry his daughter to the crown prince Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik, who became caliph later on. And Sa'id al-Musayyib refused. He said, you're mad. I'm not going to give you my daughter to your son. No, I won't do this. And he married his daughter to one of his best students, Abdullah ibn Abi Wada'a. Abdullah, and it was, I'll tell you these, maybe we'll finish with this, because Sa'id al-Musayyib is, radiyallahu anhu, is great. We'll finish with these maybe, because 8:37. So he said, with his students, and Abdullah ibn Wada'a was the poorest student within his halaqa. Then he didn't see him for 3 days. The 4th day, he saw him. And he said, where did you go? I haven't seen you. Then Abdullah ibn Wada'a, he said, my wife died. And Sa'id Musayyib got angry. He said, Halla akhbartana, you should tell us so we can witness the janazah. And he said, I don't want to bother you, Sa'id Musayyib. We just poor students. And he said, atazawajt? 3 days only. And he said, he gets married. You see, we may laugh, but at that time, yeah, that was normal in the society. And subhanAllah, this morning I was talking about this to my wife, talking about this, how this society was simple. You know, someone say, because someone said, someone was getting, I said to my wife, one of ours in Algeria, I said, he got married. And she said, his wife died 4 months ago. Why do you want him to wait 2 years? and I mentioned this story. He said, Abdullah ibn Wada'a. He said, he was loyal to his wife. But he said, okay, that's Sa'id. I said, did he get married? He said, woman yuzawijun. He's a poor man. Woman yuzawijun. Well, he didn't say, no, she just died 3 days. He said, woman yuzawijuni. No one would accept to give me his daughter. Then Sa'id Musayyib told him, Ana uzawij. I'll give you my daughter. And then Sa'id Musayyib left the masjid. And they said, 60 سنة, for 60 years, لم يرى سعيد إلا بين بيته ومسجده. For 60 years, you will see Sa'id just from his house to the masjid, from the masjid to his house. He doesn't go to the governor, he doesn't go to caliph, he doesn't go to shops, nothing. That's his usual. So they said, the anecdote, they said, at the night, Abdullah ibn Wada'a heard someone knocking the door. And he said, who's this? So the man said, Sa'id. He said, I thought of every single Sa'id in Medina, but not Sa'id Musayyib. Because that's what I told you. 50 years. His house, masjid. And when he opened the door, Sa'id was there. So Abdullah ibn Wada'a, he said, I thought that he changed his mind. Because he said in the morning, well, Ana, I would give you my daughter. And he said, it's okay because, you know, this is Sa'id. And Abdullah ibn Abi Wada'a is nothing. And he said, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, I didn't want you actually to stay this night without your wife. where is your wife? And he said he brought some scholars of Medina as witnesses with him, and they just did nikah there, as witness, and he left his daughter there, and he left. And at that time, Abdullah ibn Wada' he said, I did not have any single piece of bread except water. I mean, this is new wife. I don't have any cakes, I don't any couscous, any biryani, anything, you know. So that's the problem. So he said at that time, you know, if you have any problem, they used to just take some stones and you just put in, well, just throw it in the yard of your neighbor, and they know you have something, you have an issue. So they came to him. So he did, and he said, what's going on? He said, Sa'id Musayyib just of his wife. He said, who's Sa'id? Sa'id Musayyib. Are you sure he was Sa'id? Yes, it was Sa'id Musayyib. And then, well, his neighbor actually, he brought his wife, and he said, well, let's at least, we are trying to beautify her, and you know what they do with marriage. Next morning, he woke up, Abdullah ibn Wada', and this daughter of Sa'id said, where are you going? He said, إلى مجلس سعيد, to the halaq of Sa'id. She told him a good way. قالت له اجلس, stay here. أعلمك علم سعيد. I teach you the knowledge of Sa'id. And he said, I stayed there for 1 month. And I took from her more than what I took from Sa'id. Sa'id ibn Musayyib, radiallahu anhu. He refused to marry his daughter to the crown prince, who became later on the Caliph, Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik, a great Caliph. And what happened actually, he took a revenge from him, by the way, Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik, and he sent him to jail. Well, a long story to see the relationship between the rulers and the scholars. It's not like what you're hearing now, that if you want to give an advice to the king or the president, you have to tell him this secretly. You go to what's Richie Sunak, and I want to give you an advice in number 10, and say, well, Sa'id Musayyib was a best example on how a scholar, how a faqih, how jurists would deal with ruler who is not a just ruler, and he is not just someone who's like us or like a normal faqih or normal scholar. He is Sa'id ibn Musayyib. I think we stop here with Sa'id radiallahu anhu. And although, by the way, this clash, why actually I mention this clash between him and the political authority, to show later on that this relationship, which is a not healthy relationship at all, did not actually affect his narration, which sometimes he narrated some hadith which looks like in favor of the political authority. Because if the case is the opposite, he would fabricate hadith against the Umayyad, but he didn't. Sometimes some hadith which is in favor of this political authority. And again, you don't take this always when you take fatwa, for example. Fatwa is not always 100% clear. It's always contaminated with political context. It's always that. There's always politics, by the way, and there's always social context. And fatwa is changed from region to region, from place to place. Well, what you issue fatwa in Nigeria, it's not the same question in Japan. The answer would not be the same. No. If someone would ask, this is why this is quite dangerous, to see these people answering the fatwas in TVs and the live fatwas. This is very dangerous. This is what made people actually, they have this courage, which is negative courage, to issue the fatwas. when the TVs, when there's, you have scholars and from Algeria asking, from Morocco asking, from Singapore asking, from Somalia asking, and the sheikh is answering. They don't know even the context. Yeah, because it's different. What you have is different. And finish with this. I remember back in when we were students at secondary school, 1988 at that time, and it was a fatwa at the time from Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, the great muhaddith, that shaking hand after salah is bid'ah. And at that time in Algeria, when we finished, and he said, no, this is bid'ah, don't do this. Who said this? Sheikh Al-Albani. Well, it doesn't make sense. We shake hands because normally when you finish salah, you go in, Assalamu alaikum, how you doing? This is normally what you do. But these people, they did not get what Sheikh Al-Albani was talking about in Jordan. Something which is, it was a practice in Jordan, but never ever in Algeria. Well, actually, people at that place, particular place, they're saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, taqabbal Allah, taqabbal Allah. We didn't have this in Algeria. We didn't have this in Algeria. We didn't have it at all. We don't have this until now. But when people say musafaha, so when these Jordanian asked Sheikh Al-Albani, what do you think about this musafaha? So Sheikh Al-Albani said, this is bid'ah. So when this person, Algerian, hear these musafaha, shaking hands, he took these as literally shaking hands. So when you see, actually, when we finish, Assalamu alaikum, how are you doing? No, this is bid'ah. So you see, we don't understand the social context of fatwa, and we don't also see the political context. Because now, if something relates to the political authorities, we deal with maslaha. We deal with maslaha. It's up to the ruler sometimes. Yeah, well, you see what's going on now in Gaza, and people are. That's the issue here, and that's what we need to understand how these people, how the hadith actually did not, how the social context and political context did not affect the way how Sa'id ibn Musayyib used to narrate the hadith. If we find then something narrated from Sa'id ibn Musayyib that saying, I hear the Prophet ﷺ saying that the Umayyad are so and so and so bad people, and he could fabricate this, and he was a great scholar. He would, because to serve his opinion, which is always against the political authority, but he didn't. We find some hadith which is in favor of the Umayyad, and no one can come and we say, no, this is in favor. The political authorities, they encouraged these transmitters, these narrators, to fabricate this hadith, and we say, no, this is Sa'id Musayyib. He's always one of the opponents of the political authorities at that time. Then we say, no, these people were actually following what we talked about earlier, a clear method for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't care about the other things, even to take revenge against the political authorities. They wouldn't do. Yeah. I think we'll stop here if you have any question, and we'll continue with more students of Medina. We're still in Medina and Kufa and Basra. Should be.
But that's the person that understands. Sometimes you may not even be the social, even with the family dynamics, that you need to sit with 1 hour to listen to the whole situation.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, one of the issues with these TV fatwas, live fatwas, that's the problem. Sometimes even they don't understand even the language. You know. Before back to the 80s, where there was no any channel satellite or any, an Algerian cannot understand a Kuwaiti cannot understand Algerian at all. Now, because with the social media, before that with channel satellite, the only dialect where all the Arabs they used to understand is the Egyptian, because of the Egyptian cinema was dominated all over the Arab world. It started same as Hollywood. So people used to watch films, Egyptian series. So we get use of the Egyptian colloquial accent. But if you get, I mean, I remember my father when he heard, when this channel started to hear Kuwaiti, what he's saying? He talks Arabic. Of course, that's reality. Yeah. And sometimes, yeah, you hear to the sheikh, he doesn't know what you're saying and what you're asking is, yeah, it's different. It's different. Your context is totally different than the context of other countries. So yes, they should do this. But unfortunately, it's always one of the crises of knowledge in our era now is this one. Yeah, is this one. Sometimes they don't. And you get same thing, you get someone who lives in Saudi Arabia, who lives in Algeria, who lives in Egypt, who lives in Nigeria, and give you fatwa, you live in London, and they don't know anything about London. Yeah, student loan, no, it's haram. Such and such. I'm not saying halal haram, by the way, but just, they don't ask even what is this student loan? Who gives this student loan? What is the concept? What is the contract? What is the inflation? They don't care. No, student loan. They hear loan. It's haram. That's it. It's always like this. So you need, and it's the same thing. What now? Most of these, they call them fuqaha. They don't understand. Most of them. I'm saying.